Happy holidays. How are you doing? Well, today I begin to count down my top videos of all time as we head toward 2023. And so what I've done is I've looked up my most popular videos by number of views. And beginning today, I'll start with number 4 and I'll work my way to number 1 on Tuesday because these are the topics that are on the hearts and minds of people who are in voiceover or who are interested in voiceover. So, we're going to talk about those. And these tips will help you to build a profitable or more profitable voiceover business. Hi, I'm Bill DeWeese, pro voiceover talent, voiceover career coach. Thank you for joining me on the stream, which we do just about each and every weekday morning. I hope that you had a wonderful Christmas. I hope that you're having a wonderful holiday right now as we head toward New Year's. And just a quick heads up, I am really fighting with some allergies. It's weird. Spring and fall are usually my bad seasons, but this winter, it's just so if I have to stop to blow my nose or clear my throat. I'll try to remember to mute my microphone, but thanks for being here this morning. I do appreciate it. And as you check into the live stream this morning, if you don't mind, take a moment. Let me know who you are, your name, and where you're watching or where you're listening from. So this morning we begin with my fourth all-time favorite video in terms of number of views. And the video is entitled Stop the Announcer, Become the Real You. And so I really believe this is the ongoing work of voiceover. It's never voiceover's not it's not static. It's not like you learn it and then you're done learning and then you just go do it. It's dynamic and that you learn, you begin, you learn some more, you get better, you learn more, you get better still, your business grows, you continue to learn more. So it's an ongoing thing and quite frankly, I'm not sure that learning to, as some people put it, unannounce is a one and done thing for most people. I know it's not for me. It's something I have to continually work on. And my observation has been that those of us who come from a broadcasting background, be it radio or television, and a acting or theatrical background, any kind of public performance tend to have the biggest struggle with this because we grew up in an era when the sound of your voice was valued and to sound bigger and more authoritative was what was desired. And so, whether consciously or subconsciously, that's what we did behind the microphone. And even if you have not worked as whether it's a public speaker or a teacher or a broadcaster, you've been exposed to this kind of communication all through your life if you've ever listened to radio or watched television. So today, I just want to take a few minutes to share some thoughts regarding that. So just to understand that it is a thing. It's a thing with almost everybody. I would say 19 out of 20, 29 out of 30 students that I work with on a personal level, it's an issue with them. I rarely come across somebody that it's not an issue. I don't know that I've ever come across somebody where it wasn't at least somewhat of an issue. So where does this come from? I don't need to go into a big in-depth history lesson, but I think it's important to understand how this happens. And when you come from a paradigm of, I guess it's a militaristic paradigm where authority kind of works its way down from the top. And in my generation, the generations preceding me, and still to some degree today, although it's much less today than it used to be, there was very much a chain of command, and you didn't question authority, or at least few people questioned authority. We were expected to acknowledge, respect, and obey it. So the communication mode, if you will, was authoritarian. It was big and it was authoritative where the people were talking at you and not necessarily with you. So, in other words, the information was flowing in one direction from the source to the listener. It came at us, you know, and oftentimes, maybe for the most part, even we believed what we heard. Of course, we became more cynical in the '60s, and then on, forward to today. It's a different scenario. And people, especially younger people, I'm not even going to get into definitions of young and old, but you know, younger people, generally speaking, are distrustful of those who present themselves as authoritarian. And they'll just it's a tune out, they're turned off by it, they're done with it. So while being able to announce is a skill to have, it's a good skill to have. So I'm not saying there's never there's never a need for it. It's never called for. It's all about context in a script. And there are some scripts where whether it's tongue in cheek or whether it's genuine or not, the you know it an announcer or more authoritative sound is desired. But if that's all you're bringing to the party, then it's going to be a struggle for you. You need to learn. It's just so important. Even if you're an announcer, you need to understand context, and you need to speak from a place of authenticity and not from this artificial, facade that we put on where we want to look and sound good to other people. I mean, go back several decades. For some of you, you'll remember this. It used to be when people would do anything outside of the home. Let's say they're going to fly someplace, or they are going to church, or any other kind of institution, or anything that was out of the house and it was more social. They dressed up. It was a thing. I mean, you never flew anyplace without wearing a coat and tie if you were a guy, or dressed if you were a woman. I mean, that was just it was what was expected. I mean, my parents would have died had I gone to church in blue jeans. That's just you have to understand that's where this comes from. All right. It didn't just appear magically someplace. It's a very authoritarian, militaristic kind of view of things, which has changed dramatically. So when you talk at people, generally speaking, it's a turn off. And announcing doesn't have to be talking at people, but usually the problem comes when that's the mode that we operate in. So let me give you just a few thoughts. And that is every script tells a story. I don't care if it's an on hold recording. I don't care if it's an audiobook. I don't care if it's commercial. I don't care if it's e-learning. Every script tells a story. It's important that you understand not only what the story is, but the context of that story, where it's happening. Who are you within that story as the voice? Who are you talking to? Where's the set? What's the emotional tone of the conversation? You have to make it personal. You have to understand where you're at and how you relate to that on a personal level. Stories don't happen in a vacuum. Stories just aren't like here. They have an origin and they go someplace afterwards. And even though what we represent may just happen in this 30-second or whatever, length of time, there's something behind that. We're not speaking out of the abyss from nowhere. We're responding to something in hopes of moving this communication someplace else. And you have to understand those things. Otherwise, you are simply a voice. And that is one of the reasons I think, will always have a hard time, especially at the higher levels of where people really want good voiceover, because AI, at least at this point, just doesn't understand it. It doesn't feel. There's no sense of point of view. There's no sense of personality, emotion. The AI is evolving to where it leans in certain directions, but it doesn't understand the story, where it's come from, where it's going. But we as human beings can and we must. And so whenever we're talking, even though it is one-way communication, technically it's one-way communication. It's going from us to the listener. The reality is the listener is perceiving and consuming this information, and they're having a dialogue in their head with you. So it's really there's more than meets the eye. There's something going on, and you have to honor that, and you have to acknowledge that, because if you don't, you'll struggle, as a voiceover talent. So if you want a deeper dive, just search through this channel. If I can figure out how to do it, I come on here just because I want to share information, not because I consider myself an expert YouTuber. So if I can get a link up here for you, I will. But if you simply search "drop the announcer," it will pop up here on my channel. Drop the announcer. And then you can get a more in-depth, lesson or tutorial on that. But I would encourage you, as we move into 2023, is to begin thinking about context. What's going on? Where does this come from? Where's it going? Where's it going? Who am I? Who am I talking to? How do I feel? What's my personal experience with this? How do I feel about this? If that was really me, how would I relate this information? And when you begin thinking that way, it will begin to help to move you out of the disembodied voice, the announcer, again, the bad announcer that doesn't honor or understand context, to being somebody that people can relate to, who they want to listen to, who they're compelled to listen to. And that will certainly help move your career along, in the coming year.